Good evening, everyone. This is Calvert County Planning and Zoning. We're here tonight to share with you our updated flood mitigation plan. We're going to start with a little bit of context and take you through the hazard mitigation plan, which is the parent document. The flood mitigation plan will be an appendix to that document. Just again for context, hazard mitigation plans are federally required from the 2000 Disaster Mitigation Act. They're also mentioned in our 2022 Comprehensive Plan in Chapter 4, where it discusses hazard mitigation planning. In 2017, floods were the #1 hazard. That has shifted slightly, but it's still one of the main hazards facing Calvert County. Additionally, FEMA requires flood mitigation plans for reduced insurance rates and for grant applications.
Okay. Hi, my name's Kara Buckmaster. I'm the Emergency Management Specialist for Calvert County, and I'm going to provide a quick overview of the Hazard Mitigation Plan. As Amalia mentioned, the Hazard Mitigation Plan takes an all-hazard approach, so it is kind of the parent document to the Flood Mitigation Plan, and they work hand in hand together. The Hazard Mitigation Plan identifies all natural, human-caused, and technological threats and hazards that impact or may impact the county. It evaluates the risk level for each one, and then mitigation strategies are developed to lessen or eliminate the threat that each one of these hazards presents. It's developed using a whole community approach, so that means it involved participation from the public and also from nearly every other department in the county government. We also reached out to non-governmental partners, such as our private business partners and the utility company representatives. FEMA issued the approval pending adoption status for the 2023 Hazard Mitigation Plan on February 7th, 2024, and it was adopted by the Calvert County Board of County Commissioners on February 27th, 2024. Thank you. Okay, now this graphic is a bit difficult to read on the slide, but you can view it in the plan itself if you're interested. It's on Emergency Management's website. This is a quick snapshot of the THIRA, which is the Threat and Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment. This is the first part of the Hazard Mitigation Plan, where all of the different natural, human-caused, and technological threats and hazards are identified. And then we go through a very detailed methodology to assess the risk level that each one poses and then rank them from highest to lowest risk. As part of this, we also conducted a capability assessment that evaluated Calvert County's ability to respond to and recover from all of these different threats and hazards. We also included social vulnerability and changes in future conditions as part of the assessment. Next slide. Thank you. And then lastly, the mitigation strategy. This is, again, just a very quick snapshot. You can view the entire mitigation strategy in the plan on our website. But there are 4 different sections of mitigation techniques, including planning and regulation, structure and infrastructure, natural systems protection, and education and awareness. Each one of the mitigation actions is fits into one of these categories, and then they are all linked to broader objectives that are set for the plan. And all of the mitigation strategies or actions include structural and non-structural projects. So non-structural would be things such as outreach and education, or working with planning and zoning to support ordinances that minimize risk in certain vulnerable communities. And then structural projects would be things like stormwater projects, home elevations, acquisitions of high-risk properties, things like that. Having a FEMA-approved hazard mitigation plan makes the county eligible to pursue millions of dollars in funding to implement all the projects that are identified in these action items. Go ahead.
Thanks, Kara. So that's the background on the hazard mitigation plan, and now we get to the flood mitigation plan. Here are some photos of flooding in Calvert County. The beginning of the flood mitigation plan talks about the community profile and your flood mitigation planning team, which is who you have with you tonight. We have down at the far end of the table Kevin Shaver from Public Works. Kara Buckmaster from Public Safety. I'm Amalia Pleake-Tamm from Planning and Zoning, and Ron Marney also from Planning and Zoning. After it talks about the community profile and the planning process, the plan then goes into the risk assessment and vulnerability assessment. It notes areas of frequent flooding in Calvert County. This data is coming from county gathered data, and it shows areas such as Neal Estates, Breezy Point, Brooms Island, Cove Point, Solomon's Island, and areas adjacent to the cliffs as flood-prone areas in Calvert County. It uses National Weather Service data to look at the average rainfall patterns. 2018 continues to have the highest amount of rainfall, followed by 2003. 2017 had the least amount of rainfall, and 2000, if you notice, it has incomplete records and therefore cannot be considered a valid record for analysis. It also looks at monthly average precipitation. June's monthly rainfall average from 2000 to 2023 was 4.89 inches. That's closely followed by August with 4.88 inches, and then July with 4.63. It also looks at our risk assessment of our dams in Calvert County. Using the National Inventory of Dams and Maryland Department of Environment, Calvert County has 2 high hazard dams and 10 significant hazard dams. Finally, the plan takes us through some scenarios where it looks at what will happen to Calvert County if it's facing a 1% annual chance flood. So the first scenario is a county-wide scenario, and it uses HAZUS software, which is coming from FEMA. So this is the standard software used to assess risks for flooding. We looked at Calvert County, we looked at Breezy Point, Neal Estates, we looked at Solomon's, we looked at Cove Point, and we looked at Brooms Island. And all of these facts and figures are in the plan for closer analysis at your own convenience. And then at the end of the plan, it talks about future predictions, and it discusses the increased flooding that will occur due to climate change, warmer weather resulting in precipitation falling as rain as opposed to snow, and the fact that warmer air carries more moisture than colder air, so the rainfall will continue to be heavier and more intense. It also discusses areas prone to flash flooding, such as Dares Beach, Owings, Chesapeake Beach, and North Beach. The plan concludes with recommendations. The 7 recommendations are coordinating with environmental health on septic holding tanks in coastal communities, more detailed hazard studies of these flood-prone areas that we have just discussed, looking at inundation studies for those communities to really get more detailed analysis. Encourage citizen feedback on flooding trends. I know we've spoken frequently about using the MyCoast app, and that is recommendation 4. And that is a state application that uses photos from citizens to show where the flooding is occurring, but also to help build those trend lines. How frequently is it occurring? So don't be afraid to continue to submit the same photos of the same areas, because that is telling us, okay, well, this is not just happening once or twice a year. This is quite frequently occurring. The 5th recommendation is to integrate flood mitigation planning into our hazard mitigation planning, which, as you see, we are doing. This plan will be adopted as an amendment to the hazard mitigation plan that we currently use. Review MICO submissions with Maryland Department of Natural Resources to track those flooding trends and gain a better understanding of them. And then finally, continue interdepartmental cooperation in implementing detailed mitigation efforts, as detailed in tables 36 through 39. We also, staff has discussed adding a final recommendation about increasing transparency and openness with our process, so that the public better understands what we're doing to implement these plans. So that's the plan in a nutshell. Our next steps are to present this plan to the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners, and get it amended to the Hazard Mitigation Plan, and then we begin implementing these measures. We report annually to FEMA, and on that screen is a snapshot of our last report, and we will put these reports online so it's easier for the public to see what we're doing in implementing these plans. So that's the conclusion of this presentation. If we have any questions from the public, I'm happy to entertain them at this time. You can also always email me. My email address is on our website. If you think of things later, please do let me know. This really is a cooperative process. We perform this analysis, but we like to hear back from the public to make sure that the analysis realistically reflects what's happening in Calvert County. Are there any questions at this time?
Sorry, is there a way to do a question, or do I just do it from?
Please, please.
Oh, okay, hi. My name is Alana Van Oudenarn. I live in North Beach, and it was one of your beginning slides you mentioned, on a later slide you mentioned North Beach and Chesapeake Beach as the towns for flash flooding. It was one or two previous slides. How did those towns get listed on that slide? I apologize, I didn't see a number on the slide.
So the plan does discuss areas prone to flash flooding, and that information is coming from the National Centers for Environmental Information Storm Event Database.
Okay, yeah, and I saw North Beach was one of the towns for flash flooding. It was prior to that, I think you listed maybe Huntington or Solomons.
Oh, there was a map of flood-prone areas?
I think you had pictures on the bottom, maybe.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, there was a slide that had, there was no text, it was just.
Okay, okay.
Let me pull it up. Was it this, oops. Was it this slide here?
Yes, the one you have, yeah.
Yes, so this is one of the exciting things about MyCoast. You can pull up these photos so you can see, you really have visuals about what's occurring. So that information is coming from MyCoast.
Okay, yeah, and we do use that, and we saw that if I'm on the right website, MyCoast, when it takes the information, it was comparing the area to to Annapolis. We were wondering, would you know about why Annapolis was picked and perhaps not Solomon's or somewhere else? Or
That's
do we
probably, that's probably because it's the closest water gauge, tide gauge, yeah.
Okay, yeah, we were thinking maybe we need a water gauge. Anyway, thank you so much. I so appreciate what you're doing.
Of course, thank you for joining us. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, if anyone thinks of anything, please do feel free to reach out to any of us. We're happy to help or clarify whether it's the app or the data analysis. And thank you for joining us tonight.